What's it like helping an elderly parent do a downsize? A big downsize. The house is empty now. 7.5 weeks ago, it wasn't. Let's go down that road.
Hello, faithful people. I'm Gary.
And I'm Orlean.
And we're starting out on year 3, enjoying life in our RV.
Yeah. We are actually on our way to my mom's in Rochester. If you watched our previous video, the end of year 2, on how we spent our summer, it was helping downsize my mom from 1,200 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2 big walk-in closets, big kitchen, pantry, the whole thing, down to 500 square feet, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, in a senior housing center. So we are on our way back for 2 reasons. One is because she wants me to downsize a little bit more because she's found that there's things that are not fitting in her new place. And secondly, we're going to say goodbye because it is October and we are going to be leaving the end of this month and for somewhere warm and sunny. So before I start with how to downsize an elderly parent, I want to speak first of all to the elderly parent. Defining what is elderly is kind of in perspective, isn't it? You may have a different idea of what elderly is. My mom is going to be 94 this month, and she was number 11 out of 12 children and grew up in the Depression era. So that was a time when people didn't have anything, they had very little, and they kind of keep that mentality for a long time. My mom, for years, even in recent years, kept saying that they never had anything. They never had anything. They did have a lot as time went on. It was just that idea of scarcity, and I think that just never really leaves some of the people that grew up in that era. If you're facing having to downsize eventually, and you have the time to do it now, it is by far easier to downsize now while you still have your mind, while you still have your eyesight, your hearing, whatever it is that might be holding you back. If in the future, it would be good to be going through those things now. Give those things to your children now if they want them. And your grandchildren, give them some choices of things that they might want. If you absolutely love them yourself and you're still using them, by all means you keep them. But by downsizing now, you're going to relieve yourself of a lot of stress later, make it easier on yourself and your family. If you only have one child, or you don't feel your children can be of help, or you don't want your children to help, you may want to hire someone to help you professionally to go through those things. Downsizing my mom was inevitable. Let's take a couple scenarios. If Gary and I had moved in with her, she still would have had to downsize because we'd want to bring some of our things in, other than just live out of suitcase. We would like to have a few of our things there too. If Mom had moved in with one of my siblings, same thing. She'd have to downsize, and probably downsize to about a room with a few of her things around. So no matter what, she would have still had to have gone through this. The rest of this video is for your children, how to help you downsize. But you may want to keep listening anyway because there are some things here that I think you'll find beneficial as well. Where do you start? Well, it kind of depends on your situation. Are your parents moving into a townhouse, an apartment, or senior housing, or a nursing home room? Do your parents have a sound mind? Are they able to make decisions or not? How much time do you have? Do you have weeks, years, months, days, or a weekend? How much stuff is there to deal with? Are we talking about a big farmhouse and sheds and barns and all kinds of things all full? Or are we talking about maybe just moving from a smaller home with a garage. Number 5, you doing it alone or are you going to have help? That makes a big difference too on how you start. Let's look at the first one. In my mom's case, she was moving from a 2-bedroom, 2-bath townhome with a garage to 500 square feet, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, tiny kitchen. Very, almost non-existent living room and dining room too. I mean, she really downsized a lot. But she was able to keep many of the things that meant a lot to her because she had the room to put it somewhere. And if she'd gone into a nursing home room, she would have had to have given up way more. Does your parent have a sound mind? We were very blessed that my mom does. And she was able to tell us who she got things from, stories about each one, all the things that we probably didn't know about or would never have known about otherwise. So it was really nice having that time with her and being able to go through those things and learn about those things. But if she had had dementia, memory loss, if their things probably wouldn't have meant as much to her, she wouldn't have remembered things as much, and she would have probably let go of a lot more things a lot easier. Although someone with dementia can be very difficult to work with in other ways too. So, you know, we were very blessed that Mom has a good mind. How much time do you have? Well, in our case, we had a month. Mom had made the decision that she didn't want to stay in her house anymore for another winter. She wanted to be able to get into a place where she could be independent, not rely on everybody to be giving her rides to things and whatever. She could be dining with people, other people, and she could have more company visiting with people that live there. And that was really something that she just felt safer moving into something else. So in that case, we had, in some ways, a very generous 1 month time to do all of that. But some families only have a weekend because they don't live anywhere nearby and they don't have time to do it in any other time. Whoa, that's really when it's a nice that you've downsized previously, because to have to do it in a weekend, the stories we've heard about people throwing things in dumpsters because they didn't have time to deal with it, it just made me sick. One guy told us that they did 4 dumpster loads of his parents, and he said there was a Tiffany lamp in that. I mean, it was valuable things, but they just didn't have time to deal with it. So how much time do you have? Keep in mind that places like Habitat for Humanity will take everything except clothing. So you can be putting stuff out in the garage, you can be putting stuff maybe into one of a storage pod of some kind in the driveway, and then they can come and pick it up for you. It doesn't have to go in a dumpster. I am a firm believer that if something still has use and someone else can benefit from having it, that it should be donated, not tossed. In my mom's case, we had 3.5 weeks to do the downsize, and then we had to get the house ready to show and to sell. And so we were taking all the things that she was not keeping, and we were taking them out to the garage and getting ready to I was either selling them on Facebook Marketplace, which I'll talk about later, or they were things that were going to be going on a big moving sale at the end just before she moved. As for how much stuff are we talking about, if you have a lot, I mean a lot, like I said before, barns and sheds and a big house, or just lots of property and lots of things like that, you really might want to consider doing an auction and having professionals come in. You're still going to have to help your parent decide what they're going to take with them to their new place, but the responsibility of selling it all will be up to someone else. Are you doing it alone, or are you doing it with help? All right, here is the ideal situation. It would have been great to have one person, or at least one person at a time, helping do the downsize. There was lots of decisions to be made. She was always changing her mind. We'd go through things, they'd go into bins or boxes. She'd want to go through the bins and boxes again and again and again. So having one person just do the downsizing would be tremendously helpful. Have another person that is taking the items that she wants to get rid of and selling them for her, either on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay, Etsy, whatever it is that they're good at, have them do the selling. The third one would be, if you're having a garage sale or a yard sale or a moving sale, whatever, would be to have someone setting all of that up at the same time. And everything would be getting done at the same time with different people taking on different tasks. That would be the ideal situation. That's not the way it went with our family. Everybody had different responsibilities, but I took care of the downsizing, the selling, and the setting up the moving sale. I'll talk more about what the others did in a little bit later. So why have one person help with the downsize or one at a time? Can you imagine having 3 or 4 people saying, Dad, what do you want to do with this? Hey Mom, what do you want to do with this? And having it all going on at the same time? That's insanity. So do not do that to your parent. That is not nice. That's just way, way too much stress. And it makes things very, very complicated. So one person at a time or one person helping with the downsizing. Who should it be? If you need help downsizing, you do not want someone who has a difficulty downsizing themselves. You do not want to ask someone who's a hoarder. And there are a lot of people who are hoarders in this life, in this world, and may have some in your family. They're not good people to ask to help you downsize. They're going to talk you into keeping things that you just aren't going to have room for. So that is one person you do not want to ask. You may want to ask someone who has experience with downsizing. Gary and I did, because we downsized 2 years ago. We have a little bit of stuff in storage yet in an upstairs bedroom at his mom's. But other than that, that's all we own, besides what we have in our home on wheels, which is behind us. Can you see that? It's probably a good idea to have someone that's not real sentimental. I don't have a big problem letting go of a lot of things. Some things, yes, but there's a lot of things that some people put such a sentimentality attached to it, and it's like, why? Is it because it's connected to a person? Is it connected to a time? What is the sentimentality coming from? But some people are sentimental about everything. Not a good person to have help you downsize. It also needs to be someone who's very patient, because like I said, my mom was changing her mind often, and she was going through things that she'd already gone through multiple times just to make sure one more time. So that was hard, and you need to be patient. All right, now you've got all that figured out. Now it's time to start. Where? I say the easiest thing to do is to start with the obvious. My mom had an organ that we had actually been trying to sell for the last couple of years. So we knew that had to go. And there definitely was not room in her new place for it. There was not room for her dining room table and chairs or her china hutch. It would have taken up the whole space. There was other things she wanted. So we knew those things had to go. There was a lot of furniture that she knew was not going with her. So those are the things I started with. When you start to eliminate the obvious things that are in the way, then it creates more space, and you start to see things a little better. The next thing is to have a goal. You want to have a goal date of when to finish. It doesn't matter if you have a lot of the luxury to take your time or not. It's good to have a goal, because the longer you stretch it out, it gets really old and tiring. So set a goal to get it done, and that'll create some urgency to keep at it and keep motivated. I should back up just a little bit here and tell you that really the very, very first place to start is to include your siblings and family members, nieces and nephews, grandchildren, whatever. Let them know what you're doing, and then ask them. And I put the invitation out right at the very beginning. Is there anything that you have a special memory of that you want to keep that belongs to mom or grandma? And some of them got back to me right away, some of them didn't. My daughter in Canada was asking about different things. I was taking pictures of certain things, and she checked, and then she decided what she wanted. So you can even do it long distance, but just make sure you offer to family first, or you could have a real war. I started downsizing 3 years ago of our own things, and when I did that, that was kind of a fairly new thing with Facebook Marketplace. But wow, was that fantastic! I highly recommend it if you're good at that at all. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. I'm either going to make a video on it, or I'm going to put some tips on our Facebook page, Roads of Faith. So be watching for that. Basically, real short, you need to have a Facebook account. And then you go and in my case, I went to Rochester, Minnesota, all the buy-sell trade sites and groups, and then you have to wait to be accepted by the administrator for each of them. I think I was in 6 groups in Rochester, so I was reaching a lot of people, and we sold over 50 items through Marketplace. I will say this though about Marketplace: if you're selling a lot of things, there were times when I would have anywhere from 15 to 20 items posted at one time. And I'd be getting responses from people all at the same time on those multiple items, keeping track of when people were coming to pick them up, when they were picking them up, and just it could get really crazy. And I was downsizing my mom at the same time and setting up for the garage sale at the same time, so it got pretty crazy after a while. And that's why I really recommend, if there's one person that can do just that, that is very time consuming. Taking a little break off the road here. This is a wayside that's right across the Mississippi River on the Minnesota side. That's I-90 there. Here's the Mississippi. And all along here there's information about bald eagles, eagle watching tips, and the symbol of America.
And there's even a boat out there.
Yeah, the little river boat. I'm going to zoom in on that. So we thought we'd just take this little break, and we're going to do some more of our video with out of the truck. One of the things we want to talk about is what to say and what not to say. Oh my gosh, the things that people say and they just aren't thinking. You do not want to say, do you want to keep this or do you want to get rid of it? There's a better way to say it, and I'll tell you that in a minute. Do not refer to their stuff as cheap, junk, worthless, or crap. Please, that's so insulting. It doesn't matter what it means to you. Remember what it means to them.
It's good to remember that the things that they have value to them, things that they remember, and events along with them, and people. It's good to be very careful how you word things when you talk about their stuff.
Yep. We have bees fluttering around us, so we may be getting a little jumpy here and there. Anyway, one of the things that was a big misunderstanding with some people in our family was the way mom said certain things. And so really define a terminology with your parent. Have them clarify things to make sure that you're both on the same page. There were things that my siblings had given my mom or other family members had given to my mom as gifts. And she was pretty careful about setting those things aside to give back to them. But there were some things that when she said to get rid of it or to let it go, it's okay if it comes from their mouth, is that they took it that it meant that if they wanted to take it back, that they would have to buy it back, and that it was not the case at all, and that caused a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of hurt feelings both ways. So really clarify things. If you aren't sure what they mean by something, ask. Get it so that you're on the same page with them and understanding each other. Some of you may be very familiar with a book called The Art of Tidying. And one of the questions that you're supposed to ask in the book is, does this bring you joy? Okay, that does not work with an elderly parent, and it may not work with a lot of people, because they have something attached to almost everything they own. And by the time you get to be in your 90s, chances are you've lost a lot of the people that gave you those things, that gave your parent those things. And that's all they have left of that person, is that thing. So it has a big heart tug on a lot of those kinds of items, and you have to remember that too. So asking them, does this bring you joy? It might not bring them joy, but it brings them a memory of that person. And that's pretty much the same thing in a lot of ways, because it's that one thing they have still left of that person. The same goes for the question, do you like this? Do you want this? Of course they're gonna want it. Of course they like it, or they wouldn't still have it. So it is better to ask a very simple question. And I found this to work really well with my mom. And it goes like this. What do you want to do with this? And then that's it. You wait for their answer. Sometimes she would immediately say, oh, let it go. I don't need that anymore. I've gotten my use out of it. Let it go. Or she would say, please, and I'll define what let it go means in a second too. She would say, I want to keep that. Okay, so we'd set that aside. She'd say, well, I want family to have that. And we'd set that aside in a different area. So just ask, what do you want to do with this? Period. Well, actually, question mark. But don't go any further, and let them answer it. There'd be times when she would really hesitate. She'd scrunch up her face, and she'd just like, got kind of a big sigh. And I'd say, okay, we'll set this aside for now, and we'll come back to it later. And she'd say, okay. So in my mom's case, keep it meant I want to take it to my new home. And in some cases it meant it's going to go to a family member, because she knew she wouldn't have room for it, and there were things that she didn't need to keep, but there were things that we wanted to keep in the family. That was the other one. Give it to family, and then she'd specify who. Or she would set it aside for anyone in the family to have, if it was something that a specific person wasn't chosen. And the third one was let it go. And that meant either sell it or donate it. And there were some things that she wanted sold on the moving sale. There were some things that she wanted me to sell on Marketplace because I could get more money for it. Then I had a very difficult decision to make. The stuff that was going out for the garage sale was getting very, very full. And it got to a point where I had to decide what things we could actually get money for, and what things I might be able to get a quarter or 50 cents for. And I knew there was a lot more coming out into the garage. So I made the decision to start boxing some things up. I talked to my mom about it. She was in agreement. Took some of those items and donated them before we even started the moving sale or anything else. And we ended up donating 25 boxes. And we're not talking little boxes either. In some cases, we had some pretty good sized boxes. So those things were gone and out of the way, and we had more room then to set up more things in the garage. Getting back on the road again. All right, so now you've got all these things figured out. What's going, what are you keeping, what are you taking with you, what are you giving to family and all that. Now it's time to narrow that down, because Mom realized when she saw how much stuff was going with her, she thought, I'm not going to have room for all this. So how do you help them decide what to keep next? What we suggest is that you take a couple of things that are very similar. By having her decide which one she liked the best, then we'd get rid of the other item. That way she was still keeping something, but yet she was keeping the one she liked more than the other. I also did a floor plan of the apartment so that we could kind of lay things out a little bit and get a better idea of what was going to fit and what wasn't. There were some things that Mom wanted to keep that I just could not understand. It made absolutely no sense to me at all. So I'd ask her, why is this so important to you? And some of the stories she told me really surprised me, and I'm thinking, okay, so we kept those things. Or at least we set them aside and hoped to be able to keep them when we got all done. There were other things that I thought, this is going to be very useful in your new apartment. And she'd say, no, I don't have room. So then I would help her figure out where it was going to go, how we could make room for it. And then she liked that. And there were other things that she said, no, I don't need that. I can do this instead. The things that she got as gifts were the hardest to let go. Because like I said earlier, a lot of the people that she got those things from are no longer here in this world. Other things were not so hard. Do you know what this is? Or how about this American Harvester jet stream oven? Or the Salad Master? Do you know what kind of forks these are? Do you know what they're used for? Believe it or not, all of those items sold except the Salad Master and the cobweb over the broom doohickey thing. As we were running out of time and it was getting closer and closer to when she needed to move, I started just giving her a bin. And I'd say, Mom, just divide it up one of three ways. You know how to do it. Just divide them up. I'll come back and see how you're doing in a little while. And I'd go out to the garage and start pricing things. There were other times that she would get really tired. And of course, then I just said, Mom, just go lay down for a while. And she would. And she'd sleep pretty hard. Then there were other times that she seemed angry and very short about some things. It was overwhelming to her, and that is why I started out this by talking to the elderly parent, because you do not want to have to go through that. We're thinking of you by telling you it's good to downsize now, because if Mom could have taken her time and done it any other way, I'm sure she would have, looking back now. The one thing that she did do before she started losing her eyesight much more was she went through all the photographs and she put them into little photo albums for all of the children and grandchildren. And that is a real treasure. Also, when she was going through those times where she was feeling really overwhelmed, it helped to talk about her new place. Mom, it's going to be so much easier to clean. You're going to have so many more people to talk to every day. You can have dinner with someone. And this was the part that she held on to so strongly. The view. She was so blessed to get an apartment that had this beautiful view and sunshine. For 22 years we've been hearing about the place that she's been in and how it had a northern exposure, and now she has a southwest exposure. And she was really looking forward to getting sunshine. So we just kept talking about that and reminding her of the wonderful things and the benefits of being in the new place, and that would help her a lot too. It also helped to talk about the things that were going out the door, things that she was selling, things that were near and dear to her. When her organ went to a family who loved music, that was so helpful to her. When the couple that came and bought her dining room table and chairs, They have a big family. Another family was going to be sitting around that table having meals together, and that made her feel good. It made her feel good when the young woman that bought the China hutch was going to be using it for that. She was going to be putting her curios and her dishes and her special items in that China hutch. We had the moving sale. We ended up doing 4 days. It was only supposed to be 2, but because of bad weather and things that blew through and whatever, we ended up closing a couple days early. So we ended up going for 4 days and sold a lot. Between Marketplace and the moving sale, we did about $3,000. So that really helped her out a lot. Places we donated to was a homeless shelter, what was left of her towels and bedding, a nursing home, quilts and Afghans and things like that, make great lap blankets for people that live in the nursing homes. We gave to a nursing home gift shop, and that was all the real special things, like some of her crystal and some of those type of more expensive things, and they were going to have a fall bazaar, so a lot of Christmas things also went on that one. Habitat for Humanity, Salvation Army, some things went to Goodwill. We also found a place called Yellow Monkey. If you are in the Rochester area, that's where they take old furniture and even like shelving and things like that, and they will redo it and make it into something new and sell it in their resale store. And all the proceeds help autistic children. And it is autistic children and teens and young adults that actually do the work. I have a few suggestions that I'm going to put on our Facebook page because this is getting really long, and I'm sorry, there's a lot to cover, but I'm going to tell you about what to do with some other things that to keep them from going in the trash, and you'd be amazed at some of the things people took for free. I want to thank several people for helping with this big project, and it was a big project. I want to thank my siblings for getting the house ready for the showing and taking care of the realtor and all the background information, a lot of the paperwork, just a lot of those kinds of details. I had a sister that made a lot of phone calls to places to stop mom's services and things like that and to change her address. She didn't have online accounts, so rather than having my sister do that, she just made a lot of phone calls, which meant she was on hold a lot. So that was very helpful that she took the time to do that. My brother and a niece and my sister-in-law helped with the packing. They did the majority of the packing, and they also helped with the moving and getting her settled. My brother and Gary made a pantry for my mom so she'd have more storage. They helped to get her settled by hanging pictures and making it more homey, to get it as homey as possible. She was able to stay in her apartment that very first night. And I have 2 cousins to thank for helping with the moving sale. I don't know what I would have done without Bev and Lenora. Thank you so much. They took care of the money, they took care of my mom, and I took care of the customers and rearranging things and keeping things tidy and whatever. So that was a huge help to me. I don't know what I would have done if they hadn't been there to help me with that. And I want to thank Gary. He was so much help in so many ways. One of the biggest ones was just being very supportive and encouraging and helping to bring a calmness to this chaos. And he would help load things up when people would buy things. He would help them load it into their vehicles. He would help with fixing things that needed to be fixed before Mom sold the house. He replaced the kitchen faucet. If you didn't see how he replaced our kitchen faucet in 40% less time, isn't that what they say? I'll put a link to that up above, and you can see how he did that with the same thing with my mom's. It was very good having my hubby there beside me, because I don't know what I would have done without him there. I kept trying to think of a way to make this funny, but it just was not fun when we were going through it. So anyway, having a sense of humor will help, though. I had a lot of neighbors and things that would stop in occasionally every day. There was one guy that stopped in with his dog every day, and that was my doggy fix and my time to kind of melt down a little bit. So there's a lot of people to thank that were kind of behind the scenes. I appreciated that. So to wrap this up, It has been now 2 months since we did all this big downsize for my mom, and she's moved into her apartment. And we are on our way back to help her with a little bit more and to help her get a little more settled before we head south or west. We're not sure yet. So you have to stay tuned for that. Keep watching our channel. You're going to want to subscribe because one of the next videos we're going to be doing in the near future is going to be on how to downsize yourself. And hopefully you got some ideas just from this video. And we're going to talk about how to do a downsize in a church, because Gary and I have helped now to downsize and purge several churches that we have served at, and help people, give them permission to let some things go. So those are just a few things, and where we're going to be going next, and doing some repair work on our RV. So make sure to subscribe below by hitting that little red button. Then next to that, going to be a bell. Ring the bell and you will be notified every time new videos come up. If you have a question or a comment, we love hearing from you. So please leave a comment down below. And until next time, God bless.